Yeah, coming directly to you from, straight into YouTube. I'm not coming from StreamYard. I'm coming from YouTube, right? So I'm coming straight into YouTube. YouTube from YouTube into YouTube. And yeah, so our conversations here is all about sex. Our conversations here is all about sex, all about Christian sex education. My conversation here is about training parents on how to have sex conversations, easy way, uh, especially Christians, right? And those who believe in the biblical standards of sex. So that's what I do because in the Christian palace, sex is something that is not really talked about in many Christian homes because that's not how we were also raised. We were not raised to talk about it. Our parents didn't talk about it freely, and so we are in our own generation, and it's also not easy to talk about it. Okay, so, and that's fine, right? But that's not an excuse because we are now in a world that we didn't live in. Okay, so the world in which we were growing up, where our parents were, is no longer in existence. So this present world is a different world altogether, marked by technology, by internet, and that's what changes the parenting game in the 21st century. Internet, technology, AI, and so on and so forth. So if you're going to just sit down there and say, my parents didn't do it for me, so why bother? You're going to get your children into trouble, worse troubles that you got into, because a lot of us got into trouble by not being part of, by having not been sex educated by our parents. A lot of us got into trouble that some of us haven't recovered from. Some of us are always, regretting when we remember that. So, but now we are here in this generation. They say, "Oh, they didn't do it for me, so I'm not going to do it for my children." You're not getting your children into a worse situation, more trouble than you ever experienced. So that's what I do. So I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, yeah, and of course, I'm on YouTube. I'm on TikTok, so my voice is going all over the world. Yeah, my voice is traveling everywhere around the world because I have a message for my generation. I have a message for the parents in my generation, and that message is very simple. The message is that God created, instituted gender, identity, sex, sexuality, and therefore God is the one that should tell us how to do it, how to teach it, and how to maximize it. Just as you have to get such things when from your, if you buy a gadget, you have to, for you to maximize it, you need to look at the manufacturer. You need to ask the manufacturer questions. You need to look at the manufacturer's manual for you to maximize that product, for you not to destroy that product. So the same way is for sex, for us to maximize the beauty, the blessings, yes, the blessings, the products, the benefits of sexuality, of gender, of identity. We have to look to the creator, the manufacturer, and the manufacturer's manual. If not, we're going to experience what? We're going to underutilize it. Well, not just that, we're going to destroy it. We're going to even destroy ourselves. That's what we're experiencing now too. We've left the conversation to the world. We've left the conversation the uh, to all sorts of people, and they've carried on this conversation so loudly, so boldly, and so visibly that we are now trying to catch up. We are trying to, you know, we are trying to play catch up. And that's not how it's supposed to be. So join me, follow me on all my handles, and yeah. So today we're talking about 7 lies. Yeah, 7 lies about sexual purity that we are hearing okay, that we are hearing, right? Right? Yeah. Uh, 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 seven lies. Lies. Seven lies. So join me. I'm just having such fun, having to do this on YouTube um, directly, right? Not through a streaming app. Lie number one is that masturbation is natural, and because it's natural, it is harmless. That's the lie that culture preaches even today, everywhere. That masturbation is natural, is normal, and so it is harmless. How false that can be, that's a very, very big lie that masturbation is because it's natural, it's harmless. And talking about culture, culture is in the media. The media is culturized, pop culturized. So even if you go to the internet to talk up to look up masturbation, or even to look up something as general as puberty, signs of puberty for young children, guess what? One of the signs is going to be masturbation. They say masturbation is one of the signs of puberty, even though it's not everybody that masturbates. Or if you're masturbating, then there's nothing wrong with you. So that's exactly what you will see on most media, right? And the problem with this whole masturbation conversation is that even some Christians, some pastors also talk about it on a general normal note. Like for them, let's talk about when you cross the line, or let's talk about when it's too much. When you talk about the conversations about drinking alcohol, and you see people talking about drinking is not a sin, but being drunk is. So that's what they are bringing also in the conversation about masturbation, saying that masturbation is natural and normal, but it becomes a problem when it becomes addictive, right? So you should, when you cross the line. So there is this line, invisible line, that has been placed when it comes to the conversations about masturbation and even sexuality generally, right? So like for me, when it comes to alcohol, I'm like, the person who is a drunk actually started from a sip, started from a drink, a cup, a bottle, before they are now in the state of the place of being drunk. Do you understand? So if there was no first sip, if there was no first cup, if there was no first bottle, they wouldn't be at the point where they have become drunk. The same thing with smoking. So I always advise that, prevention is better than cure, right? So to avoid the first drag is very important. So let me come back to where I was. I was talking about masturbation and how people have said that it's natural and it is harmless. They say everybody does it. They say stop making it a big deal. Books, movies, and even some schools call masturbation a healthy discovery of your body. Right, things are told, if you don't give in, you get sick, frustrated, or repressed. So many lies are being peddled around among teens, even among adults. They say it among themselves. If you don't release, you develop backache. Our children grow up believing that because something feels natural, it must be safe. So we are not in Christian sex education, we don't pander to our feelings. We are not self-centered. We don't talk about self-centric actions. So if it's self, like whatever I feel I do, feelings are natural, right? So if I feel like masturbating, I do it. We don't talk about self-satisfaction. God is calling us to set ourselves apart, to be sanctified. God is calling us to actually crucify the body, crucify the flesh, crucify self. But when you talk about when you're talking about worldly sex education, they're talking about be you, be free, attend to your feelings, however you feel, what you want to do. It's your body, do whatever you like to do. So it's self-centered. As a Christian who reads the Bible, you know that everything about self is against the law of God, can never ever please God, right? So I read an article recently from one Reverend Father, a follower on Facebook, and he was talking about priests. This myth about masturbation, that ejaculation, that if you don't ejaculate, that okay, that it will cause prostate cancer or prostate disease and all that. So he was making a case for Reverend Fathers who have served the Lord faithfully. We're not talking of those who do, one or two things. We're talking of Reverend Fathers who have served God faithfully from the moment they made their vows, right? From teenagehood, from young adulthood, even as they are very old men now, and many of them haven't come down. Research hasn't shown, statistics haven't shown that these reverend fathers, that a lot of reverend fathers are coming down with prostate cancer because they are not ejaculating every now and then. And that's so true. And that's the truth that we use to break this myth, that when you don't ejaculate as often as you should, that you're going to have prostate cancer or prostate disease or backache or whatever. Now, God is the one who created some people. Jesus said it, that some people are born eunuchs, some are made eunuchs, and some out of circumstance they become eunuchs. So he knew that men would choose to be eunuchs. He knew that women would choose to be eunuchs. And he in fact, he structured the body even without being a eunuch. And you have to abstain. Somebody has to abstain. A man has to abstain from sex till he gets married. And he knew the dangers or whatever, I don't know what to call it now, but he made the system in such a way that the body will, take out the ones excess of it in a natural way without your effort, right? Without your effort, without your energy, without, you know, without stimulating yourself, without doing something extra physical to make it just go away. They call it wet dreams, right? So every time and again, now and then, when it's too much, when it's excess, the body naturally, without unconsciously, involuntarily, just ejaculates the excess semen. And that's not all. The body also absorbs some back into its system. I'm just trying to say that it's not harmless. Okay, that's one big lie. The truth is that sexual desire is natural. God created it, but masturbation twists God's design inward. Remember, I told you that worldly sex education is inward, is self-centered, is self-focused. But Christian sex education is upward, is Godward, is God focused. Okay, so and that's why two of them can't mix, and you can't be in the middle. You can't be satisfying self and satisfy God at the same time with your sexuality. It's either you are using your sexuality to worship God or to worship yourself. And of course, that once you're self centered or once you're worshiping self, you're already doing idolatry and you're opening the door. In fact, you're actually worshiping Satan, right? Because that's the realm where the devil actually manifests. So masturbation twists God's design inward. Me, my feelings, how I want it, I want to satisfy myself, and so on and so forth. You know what? Even married couples are victims of this. When God created sex, let me just go that way, he did it for he did it after he made husband and wife. The Bible says God created a male and female, and God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth." So, be fruitful is going to happen through sex, right? Through sexual intercourse. So, He's the one who created man and woman and told them, "Be fruitful." And then the next time or the first time, let's say the real sexual intercourse, the joining, the cleaving was talked about, was still in Genesis chapter 2, after God had now given the man a body, the body of a man, and given the woman the body of a woman, and then joined them in holy matrimony, husband and wife, Adam and Eve. And then he said, "Therefore shall the man leave his father and mother, and they cleave, they have sex, he has sex with his wife, and they two become one." Right? So you can see that when you talk about sexuality, sexual intercourse, that God had husband and wife in mind. In fact, he created the husband and wife, and then talked about cleavage, joining, and talked about sexual. So it's supposed to be in the natural, the way God created sexual intercourse. It's supposed to be focused on the other person, to satisfy the other person, to give pleasure to the other person, and of course to be fruitful, to procreate. But now masturbation takes it inward. I don't care about the other person. Even in marriage, masturbation destroys marriage so fast because the person just wants to satisfy himself, doesn't care about the partner, Sometimes they have to watch pornography, right? That's bringing in an evil third party into the marital bed, and then just to have self satisfaction and without considering, it brings in self centeredness into the union, which kills marriage so fast. So it makes it self centered. Okay. First Corinthians 7:2-3 says, each man should have his own wife and each woman her own husband. The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. I don't think I'm even going to cover the 7 lives today, the way I'm going. All right. Uh, yeah, to her husband. So sexual release was designed to be shared within marriage as an act of love, unity, and giving. Okay. Masturbation flips that desire into isolation, lust, and taking. Can you see the difference between God's perfect design for sexual intercourse and Satan's design, which is masturbation? The difference is so wide. This other one is self centered, this other one is taking, this other one is self satisfying. But God is saying that this particular act is designed to be shared within marriage as an act of love, unity, and giving. According to the First Corinthians 7:2-3, each man should have his own wife, and each man the husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. Did you see that? So it is to God and to the other people. Well, masturbation is talking about isolation, just me, lust, and taking. And Jesus raised the bar higher in Matthew chapter 5, verse 28. And he says, anyone who looks at a woman, even looking at a woman lustfully, has already committed adultery with her in his heart. This is the Bible. And it doesn't matter what generation we are in, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what generation we are in. It doesn't matter how the world is changing. The Bible says, forever, oh Lord, your word is settled. It's settled. He has said it, and that is it. It doesn't matter how human beings have become depraved, how the level of depravity of a human being, it doesn't matter. The word of God is there. Okay, and he said it that just looking at a woman lustfully, you have already committed adultery in your heart. So this shows that purity is not just about actions, it's about the heart. It's about the heart. So why is this dangerous? This lie that masturbation is natural and therefore is harmless. Why is this lie dangerous? Because masturbation leads, the problem of addiction. Masturbation can become a secret habit that controls rather than comforts. It might start as comfort, right? Just once you do it, once a week or once in 2 days or once, it just keeps graduating. We do it once a week and you're comforted. Once in 3 days, you're comforted. Very soon, before you know it now moves from comforting you to controlling, and moves that way. So the person was doing it once a month, and the person comforted once in 2 weeks, and then once a week, and then once a week, and then once in 2 days, and then once a day, and then before you know it, it's going to be several times in a day, and before you know it, and that gets into the level of addiction where the person has to need a lot of therapy and so on and so forth to come out of it. Have you seen? So it started by getting comfort, like, okay, just like alcohol, just a cup in a month, or just a bottle in a month. And then it moves on to taking it two bottles in a month, or a bottle in a week. It just keeps going on and on until you become chained, by addiction. So it moves from comfort to control. That's addiction. And then the second problem is warped identity. It trains the brain to view sex as selfish, not sacred. Remember, we've talked about these things a few minutes ago, that it's not supposed to be selfish. Sex, as it was created, was never supposed to be selfish. It's supposed to be godish. It's supposed to be otherish. Like, you understand me? So you're focusing on God and you're focusing on your spouse, but for yourself, no, 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 no. So, shame is the third one. Teens hide, lie, and live in guilt even while singing in the choir. That's the problem. A lot of people are suffering from this particular thing, but they are still very much active in in God's house. The fourth one is isolation. It builds a double life, separating them from openness with God And parents, I'm yet to see or hear about a teenager who openly just went and confessed to the parent that he's masturbating, because the shame just keeps you, just wants to, remember in the Garden of Eden, I told you, I'm not going to finish this today. In the Garden of Eden, you know, when Adam and Eve crossed the line, sinned against God, and their eyes were opened and they saw they were naked. What did they do? They were so ashamed. That's what the Bible says. The next thing that came in was shame. Sin brought shame. And what did shame bring? Secrecy, hiding. They really hid from the Lord. They hid from the presence of the Lord. That's what happens whenever we do the same thing. When we fall short of the glory of God, we want to just out of shame hide from the Lord. Even though that's, of course, that is not never the answer, because your help comes from God. So if you hide from Him, are you not worsening the situation? That's the lie and the deceit of the devil. So the worse, the more the more evil you do, the faster you run to God, because with Him is your forgiveness, with Him is your grace, with Him is your mercy, with Him is even the help you need to overcome that temptation. But running away, hiding it, will just expand it. So that's what happens. It just makes them build a double life, separating them from openness with God and parents. The shame, because yeah, shame. So when they do it, there's shame. Shame is present. And when shame is present, the next thing that you want to do is to hide, just like Adam and Eve did, to hide, because you have just seen how naked you are. When you sin against God, the glory of God goes, you just feel so naked, you feel so bad, and then you are so ashamed of yourself. And then if you're not self-aware, what do? You just begin to hide. And once you hide, you do it again. And you hide again, you do it again. As long as it's not opened up, you continue to do it. So, parents, what do you do? Number one, break the silence. I'm not here to just talk about problems or lies. I'm here to talk about the truth, and I'm also here to tell you what to do. Break the silence, okay? Don't wait for your child to bring it up. I said it before. I can hardly, I've not heard. Maybe it has happened, but it hasn't come to my notice that a child, a teenager, rose up and said, "Parents, I'm actually struggling with masturbation. Please, I need help." Even they hardly open up for other struggles, not to talk of sexual struggles, and they can't open up because they don't even know what they are struggling with. They don't have vocabulary, and such conversations are not happening at home. So what am I going to talk about? Who am I going to talk to about it? So not talking is just a problem. So don't wait for your child to bring it up. They will not. The only reason they bring up conversations is because a parent already started the conversation sometime, because conversations have been going on. That's the only reason children will bring up sex conversations. Okay? Or maybe curiosity, maybe little ones, right? Little ones, when they hear something from their classmates and so on. So they will not bring up the questions. And of course, a lot of times parents don't are not even diligent to answer properly. But apart from that, they don't bring up conversations. It's you. Say, I know you may have questions about urges and private struggles. Let's talk honestly. So you can, that's a conversation starter. Two, differentiate desire versus sin. Teach them that urges are normal. Do you know that a lot of people already feel sinful when they have a sexual urge? You know, they already feeling guilty when they have the sexual urge. A lot of people, they think that having that urge is a sin, it's dirty. Of course, no one is cleaner than God who put the urge there. So teach them that urges are normal, but channeling is what matters. Like what we say, don't let your erection to determine your direction, right? So yeah, erection is real, is normal, natural, but don't let it determine the decisions that you will make. All right, so you're in charge of that erection. Use the picture of hunger. Just because you're hungry doesn't mean you eat poison, right? So just because you're hungry doesn't even mean that you must eat, right? Sometimes you just have to wait. Okay, but let's say just because you're hungry doesn't mean you should eat poison. That's how it is. Just because you have the urge doesn't mean you should have sex. It's simple as that. Number three, practical channels. Encourage them to pray, to journal, exercise, pick up a hobby. When urges hit, redirect energy instead of hiding. So you need to teach your children the practice of redirecting, not suppressing the energy, but redirecting the energy. Okay? Redirecting the energy because the energy is powerful. It's powerful. The sexual energy is the most powerful energy on earth. And I can prove it because that's the only energy that brings forth another life. We have solar energy, we have mechanical energy, we have petroleum energy, we have fossil energy, we have all kinds of energy, but none of them have been harnessed enough to bring forth another human life. It's only when the sexual energy has been put into use, what comes out of it is another human being. Through sexual energy, the earth is multiplying with people. So that's how powerful sexual energy is. And if it is not yet time to use it to produce children, it can be harnessed into something else. So teach them how to redirect the energy, use the energy to play sport. So that's why as children begin to grow, they need to be in sports. They need to have a lot of things that takes away their idle times. They need to be doing something out of that will, take them out of the place of idleness, and that will give them the time to stroll through social media, which many children are already doing, strolling. You know what strolling is? Aimlessly. And in the process of that, they see what they are not supposed to see. Excuse me. So redirect it, sports, a hobby, exercise, journal, worship, sing, pray, something. They must find out what it is that that they can redirect their energy to. Something that if they do it, it cuts off the urge. Then number four, be a safe place. Don't shame them if they confess, right? Shame. And if they even confess, just know that. Go and tell David. If they confess, we are in a very beautiful place. Can you imagine that? Your child comes to confess to you that they masturbated or they have this, that. If you have done a wonderful job, go and ask, check statistics. It doesn't ever happen. That means there's something you're doing that we all need to learn from. So when they come with such confession, don't shame them, okay? If they confess, right? Because shame falls secrecy. Once you shame them, they become secret. And even if they had other things they wanted to expose, they would not want to because of the way you reacted the last time. Instead, guide them with love, with truth, and with accountability. It's time to disciple. When they bring such conversations to you, it's not time to shame, it's not time to guilt trip, it's time to disciple them back online. So, my question to you, dear parent, as I round up, is when was the last time you addressed masturbation with your child openly? Number two, do you model self control in other areas like food and your friends plantain? You know, parenting is modeling. Like you need to model these things to them. And you know that if you can't control yourself in lesser things like food, money, emotions, then it means that you can't also control yourself when it comes to sexual temptations. So you use those other areas to train your children, first yourself before the children. So how do you behave around food? How do you use money? And how do you handle your emotions? That is the same self-control power that will be used to control the sexual urge. So model self-control and use it as teaching moments to your children. Number three, what boundaries can you set to help your child guard their purity? Because a lot of times, because there are no boundaries or there are leaking boundaries, these children overstep and get into trouble. So what about device filters at home? What about prayer routines? Prayer is a big time safety thing to do. mentoring is also a big time safety thing to do to prevent your children from indulging and to help them guard their purity. Prayer helps a lot because prayer calms the nerves, calms the nerves, and just makes you feel or know that you're close to God. And then at that point, you know that you can do anything. And of course, mentoring, is also another powerful tool for guarding purity. A young person who has a mentor whom they can ask questions, whom they can report themselves to. When they can't report themselves to you, that young person is one that will go far in guarding the purity. So I just talked about the first lie, which is that masturbation is natural and so it is normal or harmless. It's harmless. That's the first lie, and a very big fat one. A very big fat lie that we cannot believe or let our children believe. But how would they not believe if they are not talked to, if they are not taught, if these conversations don't go on? Now, that's why I even had this free resource, the 7 lies about sexual purity and how parents can destroy it. Is a free resource that you can get from my store. Mm, yes, and that's not all. I also have a master class. I have sexual purity challenge for parents and children coming up. Okay, so all this to help start the conversation and keep the conversation going the right way. So till I see you again, thank you so much for joining me. Anything about sex, body, sexuality as a Christian parent, I'm your I'm your person. I am your right hand person. I'm your support. I am the person that you've been looking for. So slide into my DM and let's talk. All right. So see you um, next time.